Look closely at the cornerstones of civic buildings and historical monuments, and you will often find a mark, a square, a compass, and often a single letter G. For centuries, these symbols have fueled relentless paranoia. They've been whispered about in the shadows of revolutions, printed in conspiracy manifestos, and permanently carved into the civic architecture of the modern world. George Washington laid the cornerstone of the United States Capitol wearing their apron. They are the Freemasons, one of the most famous and most endlessly debated fraternal organizations in history. Today, the internet is saturated with claims that they secretly run the world. But to find the real story, you have to strip away the modern myth. The true history of the Freemasons doesn't start in a shadowy boardroom. It starts in the dust, sweat, and geometry of the Middle Ages. The core question isn't whether they control the globe. The question is, how did the physical tools of a medieval stonemason craft tradition become some of the most feared and recognizable symbols of power in modern history? To understand the secret, you have to understand the stone. To understand the Freemasons, you must first understand the Operative Masons, the men who actually worked the stone. The 12th and 13th centuries saw an unprecedented building boom across Europe, the age of the great Gothic cathedrals. This work required highly skilled specialist craftsmen, men proficient in geometry, design, and advanced stone-cutting skill. Their rare skills were in high demand. Unlike other laborers bound to the land, these specialists were uniquely positioned, allowed to move between major construction sites. This is one explanation behind the term Freemason. On these decades-long projects, the builders established various types of functional workshops. These were private spaces or lodges for teaching apprentices, setting contracts, and developing skills. But mobility created a unique challenge. How do you prove your skill to a new master mason? They developed early practical forms of recognition, simple signs, shared secrets of the trade, or standard credentials. These practical secrets were professional essentials, not mystical occultism, proof that you were a qualified fellow craft or master mason. They were building cathedrals of stone and constructing the first layers of the Brotherhood. As the era of massive cathedral building began to wane in the 16th and 17th centuries, the itinerant operative stonemason became less common. The older operative world was changing, but something unexpected happened. The existing stonemason lodges, most notably in Scotland, began accepting non-craftsmen into their ranks. They were known as accepted or non-operative masons, and later, speculative masons. These were gentlemen, scholars, professionals, and men of status. They weren't there to cut stone. So what were they looking for? In an era defined by civil war and harsh religious division, these early lodges began to offer something incredibly rare: a quiet, private space where educated men from different ranks and backgrounds could meet under shared rules. Later, Masonic rules would strongly discourage sectarian, religious, and partisan political conflict inside the lodge. Instead, they focused on philosophy, charity, and science, specifically geometry and architecture. They took the operative tools they found in the lodges, the square, the compass, the level, and transformed them. They stopped using them to shape physical stone and started using them as moral metaphors to shape their own character. The physical craft was dying, but the symbolic brotherhood was being born. By the early 18th century, scattered independent lodges existed across Britain. But in 1717, in a London tavern, 4 of these lodges held a meeting that changed Freemasonry. They didn't invent the brotherhood that day, but they did organize it. They formed the first Grand Lodge. From that point, gradually, a loosely connected set of private traditions was transformed into a more formal and recognizable institution with central leadership. In 1723, this new organization published Anderson's Constitutions. This was a massive turning point. The book codified their rules, formalized their mythical history, and outlined their moral framework in writing. The lodge was no longer just a private room, it was a scalable system. The physical tools of the builders were officially locked in as a cohesive moral language. In Masonic tradition, the square represented morality. The compass symbolized self-control and keeping desires within bounds. The level represented equality among brothers. The humble leather apron became a badge of honor. This system was exactly what the Enlightenment era was looking for. It offered ritual, shared identity, and moral discipline in a rapidly changing world. It wasn't a shadow government quietly steering global politics, but it was an exclusive, highly organized private network. And for the first time, it was structured enough to carry its ideas beyond Britain. Once the system was codified, it began to spread. Carried by merchants, military officers, travelers, and colonial officials, Freemasonry spread steadily beyond Britain. Lodges sprang up across Europe and eventually throughout the American colonies and the wider globe, and they were attracting prominent men. The membership rolls began to fill with politicians, aristocrats, pioneering scientists, and influential writers. But why were many influential men of the Enlightenment era drawn to a society based on medieval stonemasons? The answer is trust. In an 18th century world defined by strict social classes, political espionage, and shifting allegiances, the lodge offered a rare sanctuary. The rituals, the oaths, and the shared symbols acted like a kind of social passport. An initiated brother could travel to a foreign city, enter a lodge, and be recognized as a brother under shared rules. Inside these private rooms, men who might otherwise never speak to each other could exchange ideas in a controlled private setting, discussing reason, liberty, charity, and scientific progress. Modern conspiracy theories love to claim that Freemasonry operated as a shadow government secretly orchestrating the American or French revolutions from the top down. But that misreads the reality of how they operated. The power of Freemasonry was never about every Mason following one hidden global command. They didn't need a single master plan to shape the world. A private, international network of influential men, bound by shared trust, is powerful enough all on its own. The very ingredients that made Freemasonry so appealing to the Enlightenment mind were exactly what made it terrifying to the established order. Private rooms, solemn oaths, and a loyal brotherhood that spanned across rival nations. To the Church, particularly the Catholic Church, starting with the 1738 papal bull In Eminenti Apostolatus, a private society built around secret oaths, mixed religious membership, and loyalty outside church control, was seen as a direct threat to spiritual authority. To monarchs and state governments, an invisible cross-border network of influential men could look dangerously close to political subversion. When the political landscape shattered at the end of the 18th century, that suspicion boiled over into outright panic. Because some Revolutionary-era figures were Freemasons, reactionary critics made a massive leap in logic. They claimed the lodges hadn't just participated in the era's changes, they had deliberately orchestrated them. Once public trust broke, the organization's greatest asset, its symbols, became its greatest liability. To a fearful public, a square, a compass, or an ornate apron were no longer tools of moral self-improvement. They were the sinister codes of a hidden order. Freemasonry was not powerless, and it was not irrelevant. It was an exclusive club that wielded genuine societal influence. But they didn't need to secretly run the globe to become history's most feared brotherhood. Real secrecy, combined with real influence, will always breed lasting suspicion. They began by building with stone. Then, they built with symbols. And eventually, the world built a mythology around them. And as always, stay curious.